Hi, Kari. It was great to have met you during last week's first virtual IMRB conference. We appreciate that you are willing to share your thoughts to some topics that are hopefully of relevance to the whole mining community. Before we start, please give a short introduction of yourself and your role.
Thank you, Axel. My name is Kari Lentowizc. I'm a Cree First Nations woman from Northern Saskatchewan, Canada, and I am the Managing Director of the nonprofit Dimonds in the Rough Emergency Rescue Organization.
Okay, thanks. Let's start with the questions. Do you see an increased awareness in the associated risks to health and well-being within mine rescue teams?
Absolutely. With a lot of the developments over the last year and previous years in regards to health and wellness, I think there's been an overwhelmingly increase in awareness regarding not just some of the airborne stuff that we might see, but some of the processes that we have within mine rescue for keeping our mine rescuers safe. And I believe that what we're seeing is a trend towards basically whatever we can do to increase that health and well-being through our programs, where it might be developing a physical fitness program for our mine rescuers so they stay in shape, because that leads to, basically it contributes to how somebody will react when we encounter something such as an incident that might be stressful. So I think you can see in a lot of the mining companies out there, they're really starting to acknowledge that and put those programs in place so the mine rescuers are well taken care of physically, mentally, and that social well-being aspect is also taken care of through some of the programs that you see on these remote locations where people are spending the majority of their time at a camp situation.
And by saying that, do you face any issues implementing rules and regulations? And if so, what would they be?
Right, you have a lot of people who are used to doing things the way they've been doing them for 10, 15, 20 years, and changing that process can be quite difficult. And I think that's one thing that we've seen within pandemic situations, that with the decrease in training because of a risk of exposure, these people aren't getting that same hands-on ability to basically implement these new processes on a regular basis and actually remembering them. So I think some of the things that we've done to accomplish, that change is putting other systems in place. In the past, we've relied on people just to memorize, okay, this is the process that we do to sanitize our equipment. Well, you know what? We're going to put a little note on the wall with a checklist that you're going to go through every time, because we've changed the process and we want to make sure that everybody's safe and everybody has confidence that the machine they're using is safe for them to use. They're not going to suffer any negative impacts. With general cleaning at a mine site, I think that we're seeing that change, and it's for the better, but there's a lot of new learning that goes in with it, even learning the chemicals that people are using. There's a big change there. I think people are actually starting to read the labels. There's a lot of chemicals out there that, they require a certain contact time for things to be cleaned, and then there's the contact time that must increase for disinfection, and then there's also sanitization. They're all different contact times required for these chemicals that we use, and a lot of people weren't aware of that before, and they're really starting to become aware of that stuff now. And then from the mental health aspect, there's a lot more resources being put into that. There's a lot more effort going into critical incident stress management programs, where they look at things like psychological first aid, mental health first aid, and then also critical incident stress debriefing, and really looking into how they're implementing those types of programs and ramping them up to best practice rather than just going with what they've always done.
Would they address any concerns as well regarding the new style as you explained it?
Oh, obviously. I mean, like I said, old dogs, new tricks, they don't always go hand in hand. So there's always going to be issues there. But you're going to have people that you might have to drag them to the water, but eventually, once they get that information and get that understanding of what's going on, they'll drink the water. They'll realize that, this is in their best interest, that there is a reason for doing it, and that it's not only for the safety and well-being of others, but for their safety and well-being as well, and their loved ones at home who are counting on them to come home safe and physically fit, mentally fit as well.
So that leads me to the next question. How should these trainings that you're talking about be conducted? So what experiences have you made? What does work and what does not?
Well, sticking to one training regimen doesn't work. You need to adapt that training style, the training delivery platform, to accommodate the people that are there. In any disaster emergency response situation, people need to be prepared in advance, and you can't just trust that people will learn by you just simply dictating to them. Some people are very tactile. They need to get their hands on and understand why they're doing something, how something works, so they can feel more comfortable with it. Some people need constant reminders, with whether it be through posters all over the place or bringing that up in safety topics within their company. There's so many different ways that training does need to be conducted, but you really have to tailor it to the audience that you're delivering to. There is no one solution. You've got to use multiple platforms, multiple different interfaces, and sometimes you have to use multiple different trainers too, because not everybody responds to the same trainer the same way. So we need to make sure that is something that's taken into account. It doesn't mean somebody's a bad trainer. It just means that how somebody receives the training is it's not always the same from the same person. I've seen that in not just safety training, but generic orientation training. And one of the other things that we really need to look at is the language that we use. You can't go out there with just really scientific information and expect everybody to understand that. So you look at layman's terms, but you also need to provide that scientific explanation for those who are very science-minded. So layperson's terms, using those advanced scientific terms are important. And then also the actual languages that we use. For example, in some of the sites I've worked with, we've had a large First Nations community, and we've got people who are French and English, and we need to make sure that translation's there, and that translation actually it makes sense. Because some words in different languages don't actually translate very well, so the meaning isn't the same. So we really need to make sure that the people who are native speakers of those languages have a first crack at it and make sure that it's suitable for the audience that it's intended.
I see. Well, Kari, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time and being available for us to talk about this topic. I really appreciate it. You please make sure you stay safe and healthy. Pass on my regards to all the diamonds in the rough, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.